Oh, there it is. I got it. Welcome, everybody, to Down the Rabbit Hole, an open discussion about virtually almost anything you want. This is a question and answer session, and or we'll just keep talking our heads off, however you want to do it. But so just to kind of give you some basic guidelines. You can participate, you can turn on your microphone, you can turn on your video if you would like. You are being recorded and streamed. If you would prefer to kind of stay in the background, down at the bottom of your screen, there is a chat, and you can pop into the chat and type in your question, and everybody will see it, and we will answer it um, as soon as we possibly can. This is, there you go. I just put a little thing in there saying your questions here. So something should have signified that there is a message coming through. So you are welcome, welcome. So,
and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can do it in there too. I'll keep an eye on that, but
absolutely,
definitely if you're on the stream, it's going to be faster.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. So we generally start our rabbit holes with kind of a continuation a little bit of Thursday's live stream, but we don't have to stay in this realm. But it's always kind of fresh in everyone's mind. But we always like to start out with a little parable. Once a businessman was up to his neck in debt and could not see his way out of this situation. He was in the red to his creditors and his suppliers and were demanding payment every single day. He went to the park to distract himself from his worries, but all the same unhappy thoughts remained stuck in his head. The man dropped his head into his hands, casting about in his mind for ideas that could save his business from bankruptcy. Suddenly, an old man appeared before him. "I see that something is troubling you," he said. "Won't you share your thoughts with me?" The businessman told him about his problems and about his lack of money and his bank's refusal to give him some extra credit to promote his business. The old man listened without interrupting and then said, I think I can help you with that." He asked for the businessman's name, wrote out a check, and put it in the surprised man's hand. "Take this money. I'll meet you here in exactly 1 year, and you can then give it back to me." The man didn't have time to say anything before the old man had melted away into the crowd. The businessman looked at the check. In the space for the amount of money, the old man had written him out a sum of $500,000. And below it was written the name John D. Rockefeller. Now, John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in the world. "I can do away with all my problems in an instant," he thought. But instead, the businessman decided to put the check in his safe, and thought of its existence alone gave him the strength he needed to work out a way to save his business. With renewed vigor, he closed some deals and managed to have the terms of his payments extended. He was able to make some big sales, and within a few months, he was out of debt and began earning money again. And a year later, he returned to the park with the very same check. At the appointed time, the old man appeared. The businessman was ready to give the check back and to tell him about his successes when a nurse came running over and grabbed the old man. "I'm so glad I finally caught him," she exclaimed. "I hope he didn't bother you. He often runs away from the home and tells people that he is John D. Rockefeller." The businessman just stood there feeling stunned. Throughout the preceding year, he had been busy as a bee doing business, buying and selling, in the belief that at any moment he could use that $500,000 to save himself if the situation demanded it. Suddenly he realized that it wasn't money, real or imagined, that had turned his life around. It had been his new self-belief that had given him the strength to achieve all that he wanted. So remember, be proactive. At the crucial moment, belief in yourself always plays a key role. And that's my story. Gary, it's all up to you, dude.
1 second, let me just add Mary in here. All right, yeah. Well, if you guys have been watching the streams, you'll see that if you look at the last few streams we've done, from the topic of fear to the topic of placebo factor to beliefs, I mean, they all have a common thing, right? It's about the thought process and how we formulate these ideas about what we think reality is. And beliefs are like kind of, like I mentioned in the stream, it's kind of like the big puzzle that we decide is going to be the map we run our lives by. And we experience an element of what beliefs give us, but not the full totality of what's possible, right? So it limits us to seeing just within the square of that puzzle that we create, but misses all the other things that are possible in reality. And so it's, we bring it up in this, and 1 hour is just not enough. I mean, even 2 hours. I mean, we need a full day to unwrap beliefs, because there's so many components. But it's powerful when you start to realize the control that beliefs have over our perception and experience of reality. It's important to then say, okay, well, maybe I need to start to examine what my beliefs are, right? Really look at, what is it that I truly believe? And the way that you know what your true core belief is look at what's showing up in your life. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but look at what's shown up in your life. Look at what's shown up in your relationships. Look at what's shown up in your finances. Look at what's shown up in your health. That is a reflection of the core belief that's going on for you, right? And it's to start from there and say, okay, well, what is it that I believe about this situation that allows this reality to show up? And it'll show up in your languaging a lot of times. It'll show up in what you consider to be an identity. So I am this is one of the biggest belief systems, that you are just that particular thing, right? So when I was doing, and I still today when I work with clients, but more so when I was doing therapy, I would hear clients come and say, I am, I'm angry, or I'm depressed, or I'm this, or I'm that, I'm stressed. And they claim that identity and don't realize that identity is formulated because of some belief system that's in place. If you change the belief system, you change the identity, and therefore the impact of whatever it was that was impacting you.
Right? I think if we look at that, Gary, and we look at just the today's situation of what's going on, the polarity of today, a lot of people are being put into a situation of, you are this, you believe this, or you believe that. Yeah. And such, and they identify with that, not realizing that they can be all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and we talk about this all the time. It's not a this or that scenario. Right. It never really is. It's always this and that too. And so it's opening and expanding to think about, what else is there? Right? What, and that's really where we wanted to start this conversation on beliefs, is to look at, how solid are they? How real are they?
Dawn popped in a good question here. She said, not even a question, more of a comment. She's, belief kills, belief cures.
Absolutely.
And they're both correct. They're absolutely both correct. That's that duality of beliefs. You can, as Gary was saying, you can have the belief that I am stressed, or the belief that I am relaxed. Each one has the same energy to it, but each one has a whole different effect on both your mental condition and your physical condition, as we've discussed many, many times as well. And such, you get to choose always, you have the choice of which one. Are you going to use beliefs that kills, or are you going to use beliefs that cure, or beliefs that empower, or the beliefs that disempower? It's the same. It's the same energy. You're just saying which, if you have a fork in the road, you're saying, I'm going to go with the belief that cures. Okay. Same energy, or I'm going to go with the belief that kills. Okay. Which one? You're right here in the middle. You're right there. Which one? Let's see. Well, this one's not, I don't like the outcome of this one, but somehow we have been conditioned to, we always tend to go towards the negative. It's a conditioning that we've had since childhood. And we're just here to say that, you have a choice.
Yeah. And, again, we'll go back to is examine your beliefs, examine your belief systems. How did they come about? Where did they come from? We talk about the power of questions a lot of times in a lot of previous streams, but, when it comes to your belief systems, it's a good way to kind of start the process of unwrapping it for you, right? And again, it goes back to, is it right or is it wrong? It isn't either. It just is. And what you can determine is it useful for you based on your life path or your life experience or what you want to have as a life experience? That's what can determine it, because that then tells you whether it's in the vibration or the frequency of your core of who you believe yourself to be. Right.
Exactly.
And so I'm gonna put in the comments here. So if you use this question as a starting point, all right, there's that. If you say, what would my beliefs have to be for me to act in the ways I do? It's a powerful question.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you can start to unravel, what are the beliefs? What is it that you believe about how relationships should be? What is it that you believe about, how your career should be? What is it you believe about your capacity or your ability to heal and to be healthy at what age, and all those things? You start to think about all the things that come into play to build on that, for you to claim it as your truth. And once you can start to question it, if you think of beliefs as this, the way I used to give the metaphor, think of it's like this tabletop, right? And you can see and experience the top of that table, but only because underneath it are all these legs that support it to be there. And all these legs are all the excuses, all the reasons, all the justifications, all the life experiences, all the things that people have said, all the things you've convinced yourself, all the research you've done, all those things support this leg to give it strength. So if you then start to question this leg, then it's not quite as solid. Right? You start to question this leg, then it goes, whoa, hold on. And you start to question this leg. And then now all of a sudden it's on, and then it's wobbly. And then that's the opportunity. Then you can say, okay, what would I like to have instead? Too many people try to, create life changes by just kind of going, okay, I want this instead, but they don't unravel or loosen the current idea or puzzle of reality that they have before they start to put a new one in.
Exactly. And that process that Gary just explained can be a scary situation to put yourself in. I have seen people go into a bona fide panic because, and they get this visceral effect as if they're being physically threatened, because in their mind they are. And a lot of times you need to do that with somebody that you can trust, somebody that's going to stabilize you and say, you're good, everything's fine, and such, until they can put back a different new leg and such. But it can be, and that's why I think a lot of people, in my opinion, will back off from it. Oh, no, I'm no longer safe. The subconscious mind's like, oh, you want to change? What? Are you kidding me? That's what we based our whole life on and such. But it's not working, or it could work better. those are just the questions that you're having to ask yourself. But that's where, I can't stress how the feeling that is. I've been through it with different things in my life that I wanted to change. I'm just like, whoa, this is more of a foundational belief than I had expected it to be. And that feeling is still there. It's still prevalent, can be still prevalent.
So Don says resistance. How can we release the resistance? The first thing to understand is to believe that there's resistance. There's a belief that resistance is necessary or needed that you've developed in some way. So it's a good question to ask, how do we release the resistance? A better question though, and this comes down to questioning, a better question is, how can I make it easier? Then you'll focus on that. Because remember, we've done like at least 10 different episodes on questions in and of themselves and the powers of questions. But if you ask the question, how do we release the resistance? Think about the languaging of that. Okay. The languaging around that, Don, means that you have, there's some part of you, or if this is something you hear from someone else, that person with that question, the formulation of that in the brain, the psychological component of that means that you are focused on the resistance, and there's something that you have to release. Don't think of it as that. That's again, that's where some of this where Ross's scary stuff thinks that people think they have to go through. It doesn't necessarily have to release it. Maybe just transforming or shift or adjust it. Mm-hmm. Right. So in the questioning of how you're questioning it is, you can start to change those legs and weaken them. And, as I said in the stream, don't go for the jugular. Start with smaller things so you can start to know that, hey, I can shift a belief system around certain things, that are not so life altering, because that ego can start to say, whoa, I'm used to this reality. That's too big of a shift, too big of a variation from what I'm used to. Right. And, sometimes we go through life experiences where those happen. And like I said, it's either you source them and you find them, or they find you. Right. The tools that we're giving you in these streams are really to kind of open up your possibilities and to expand it and to give you, hopefully, give you a platform where it can be more transformation of ease as opposed to a transformation of disruption.
Yeah, so Don is also asking, is there some part of me that doesn't believe that, or that I don't deserve? And, that's possible. Those are questions that you have to answer for yourself. But going back to what Gary had said, this is the question and answer portion. This is where asking yourself deep questions and being open to whatever the answer is, whatever the truth is, because there's no right or wrong answer. There just is, no, you don't believe. Yes, you do believe. No, you don't deserve. Yes, I do deserve, and such. And then when if you get the answer no, why not? Where, because one part of the process that we go through is that if your answer is no, for example, just as an example and such, then where did you learn that? Who told you? What situation happened? Where did this happen? You go back and find out where that was implanted, where someone said, as an example again, that you don't deserve this. Or
a faster or maybe a more complete way to unwrap that is, how do you know? I mean, how do you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's a good question to ask yourself.
So if you say, that I don't deserve, right, whatever it is, I don't deserve money, I don't deserve love, I don't deserve health or healing or a radiant, glowing life, whatever. If I don't deserve whatever, right, the next question, if it's not serving you, is, how do you know? And the answer that comes from that, just keep asking, how do I know? Because when you ask, how do you know, in order for the brain to answer that, it has to come up with your reality pattern. It's really the question to let you know how you formulated that as a reality.
Very powerful.
Right? And then you can unpack that. And then you say, well, so let's say, how do I know? Well, I know because, in my life, I've had, these types of experiences, and, that justifies it. Okay, well, in those life experiences, where were you when you decided that was the definition? And when you say, where were you when you decided that definition, brings you back to the moment of the creation of that particular belief system. And then you can say, okay, if that was the origin point of that belief system, where was I just before that when it wasn't that way? Something happened right there. Okay. And that's magic. When you can find that, that's magic. When you can get to that place where you think of, okay, I was here when I decided that, then right before that, where was I? What was I doing? Who was I? What was going on for me to not think that first? And then in that not thinking that belief system, what was I believing then? Right? And here's the rabbit hole. Then you say, okay, so if I was believing that at that time, how do I know that's what I was believing then? And then you go and then you formulate, and then you can say, oh, well, then if I could believe that, then what stops me from believing it now? Right? I mean, beliefs are, there's the beliefs are they're scary in some ways, but they're fun and powerful in others if you just play with them. If you go into it with a mentality that, hey, let's just explore what is, if there was a way that I could have fun with this, if there was a way that through my exploration I learned more about myself and become more in tune with the core of who I am, is that a journey I'd like to take? And if so, what are the tools that are available to do that? And that's, again, what we're presenting week after week. Because if you look at really any stream that we've done, you can really look at within there is some component that you can apply to a belief system you have about that topic.
Another leg for your table.
Right. Yeah, and so Don says, I keep telling myself I'm worthy, and that's a good start to have the affirmation. It's, if you're saying the affirmation but not believing it, though, then it's not. In the infinity process that Ross and I teach, we say we're not so interested in affirmations. We're interested in a declaration. Are you declaring it as truth, or are you saying it as an affirmation to make it, or to think or hope it becomes true? There's a huge difference.
And if you want to know if an affirmation is working, if you want to know, really want to know, I am worthy, how do you know you're worthy? It's the same process. It's the same process, because
that'll strengthen that belief. If you, well, how do I know? Well, I know because this, you start to figure out what the legs are.
Yep. Exactly. So this process that Gary just explained, you use it for the good and for the bad, or the positive and the negative, whatever, however you want to identify it. But what it does is what Gary just said, is strengthens it. It strengthens the positive, and it reveals, the negative, or the things that are not working for you and such. By your definition, they're negative. By somebody else's definition, they might not be negative, but for you, they're not working for you. So those, but before you decide to take it away, it has to be replaced with something. And so it's to give that structure for your life and such. I'm a big believer that, when people say, well, I need to get rid of this, well, that's part of you. Why don't we redefine it? Why don't we enhance it? Why don't we do something else so that you're not getting rid of something? When I see these posts on in headlines and stuff like that, that you have to destroy this, you have to kill that thought. It's like, well, that's me. We want to enhance them. We want to find out what their definition is, how you are defining it. So your definition of worthy might be different than my definition of worthy, or anybody else's that's on this stream right now, their definition. What's your definition of worthy? So to redefine those definitions. It's still a belief, it's still worthy. So what is your definition of deserve? What is your definition of a belief that doesn't work?
Yeah. In martial arts, we used to call it aligning and redirecting. So if an energy is coming towards this way, instead of meeting it, then you get this resistance, right? What you want to do is you want to align with it and then redirect it. So you make it your friend. So how is this serving me? Is probably a good question to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, because if you put it as it's the antagonist, it's like you're in this battle, then internally some part of you are going to feel like there's destruction that's going to occur. And it's not, we're not internally designed that as a default. Right. That doesn't help us for survival. Right. So, and so we say, okay, well, how is that serving me? And when you find out how it's serving you, then you can say, oh, okay, I get that it's serving me because it allows me to be cautious of this, or it allows me to maybe if we're talking about worthy, then it's maybe it allows me to then be in gratitude for the things that I have. Well, that's a good thing. But it's how it's manifesting that may not be. So how can you still be in gratitude once you know how it's serving you? Then you can say, okay, if I know that it's serving me to be in more gratitude with the things that are around me and that I have, how can I still have that gratitude or even more of it without having to go through the experience of feeling not worthy? What are the other possibilities? Right? And then that opens that up in a whole different realm of it then becoming in alignment with, as opposed to in opposition to. Right? It's great. We got a whole bunch of people now. You guys can all participate. Remember, I know there's a bunch of people came on after Ross made the announcement. You can all participate in the chat or jump on the mic and the video if you want to join in. Because again, we want this to be a collective conversation, including Q&A. So we're definitely happy to answer questions.
So there's a chat comment at the bottom of your screen. If you're not familiar with Zoom, it says chat, and just click on that. It'll bring up the chat window. You can see the questions that have already been and responses that have already been asked. Just type in your question if you'd like, and if you don't want to verbally or visually participate, which is fine. So hi, Josephine, welcome back.
Hi.
Hey, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I know. I've been sleeping in.
Wow, the truth.
Well, I didn't even get to do my hair. I was like, I gotta hurry.
Well, we're happy to see you back.
Absolutely.
So as I was listening, as I was getting ready, when you were talking about feeling worthy, feeling all of that stuff, it's literally you have to do a self-check, like in that moment, and ask, why are you asking those things? So instead of questioning it, feel it, see where it's coming from, and look into it, observe it, but don't sit in it too long, and then keep moving and know that, that came up for a reason, because there's still some inner work to do there.
Yeah.
But mostly it's being present here in the here and now, and not engaging in all those things that pop in your head.
Yeah.
Correct. And those things pop in your head for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with them popping into your head unless you find that, as Gary said, that they're not working for you. Then we step back and start to question why. And And if you are in a situation where you can't do it at the time, make yourself a note.
Mhm.
Just, this is the 21st century. I mean, everybody's got a phone and everybody's got a calendar or a little note section on their phone. Just make yourself a note. I want to sit down, give yourself some time, some quiet time. I want to sit down and ponder this question. I want to, why did I think that? Why did that pop up? Or why does it always pop up? Is really the better question of to ask. Is like, just because you had a negative thought, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. That's the contrast of life and such. But when you find it over and over and over again, the repetition is the concern, because repetition is how the human mind learns. So there was an author, Shad Helmstetter, wrote a book, Things We Say When We Talk to Ourselves. This was back in, I think, the 80s, maybe the 90s and such. And he had some incredible insights, but his whole process of understanding what self-talk can do to you, or self-thinking. So, when
Yes.
you're not actually
That
talking to
tiny
yourself.
person.
Some people are.
That tiny you.
Yeah, the voice.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that they actually created a show called that, The Voice. um but at the same time, I actually kind of like that, because the voice is hidden until it decides to reveal itself. So it's kind of an interesting concept that they came up with. But regardless, though, that repetition of a disempowering thoughts are the ones that we want to say, why do I keep, where does this come from? And then start the questioning process that Gary was describing earlier.
But who's asking the question? Is it the little self in the head, or is it the person that's asking the question? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like the present self is always watching, always observing. So, so when do you let go of your present self to hop into past issues and past things,
that's the process that we were describing earlier, is the question and answer process, where we discover where these thoughts originated from, whether they be powerful or whether they be not powerful,
or where did it come from?
Right. That's the process. That's the process of asking, the proper questions, the where, why, and when, and who you can. But that who is generally going to be connected to that origination.
Yeah, belief. You remember, your belief is a support system for your identity. So again, and they're very intertwined. So it's sometimes challenging to separate the two, and requires a fair amount of persistence in order to do that. Because when you get to the level of identity, and even beyond identity into the spirit of who you are, those can transcend beliefs, right? They can transform beliefs. That's that's a warrior's journey, right? Right? And not everybody's ready for that. Not everybody's ready, right? Not everybody's ready to rip the table off the top like that and just let things fall where they fall. And sometimes that can be destructive, right? For people to go back into reality where other people are experiencing something different. So, I think instead of ripping the Band-Aid off, I think it's more of, okay, what can we do to make it heal so that the Band-Aid is no longer necessary or no longer needed?
I love your picture, by the way.
Thanks.
It looks like the creator behind you, or you contemplating your past self.
So in going through that process, and where I said earlier, it can be disturbing, it can be painful, it can be scary, and it's nice to have some sort of a support system with you if you feel that it's necessary. If you start venturing into that realm and you just have the anxiety starts to build to where you don't feel that you can control it, then stop and find somebody who can support you while you're going through this process. It's but that also means if you have that kind of an anxiety that builds up, or a type of fear, depending on however you want to define it, the greater the buildup is, then the more important it is to make this discovery.
And this goes back to Don's, question around the resistance part of it. The reason you would have resistance is because many times is because you have conflicting beliefs.
Also fear.
Well, yeah, well, that's where the conflicting belief comes from, right? So it's
Here's a symptom.
Yeah, right. And so because they're conflicting, there's a part of you that believes that you're worthy, and another part of you that has evidence that you're not. And so they're conflicting. And again, that's where we come to, okay, well, how does that serve me, and how does that serve me? And then, how can we find a middle ground where it's all serving me?
Being present.
Yeah. And
being present,
it's
because you're not here, you're not there.
Yeah, and by exploring your belief systems, you can be more present because you're not caught up in the past stuff. You're not caught up in the potential future or potential not future, whatever the scenario is for you. By you doing the exploration, by you asking the questions, how do I know that's true? How do I know that's real? And, where was I when I decided that? And right before that, where was I? Because right before that, I didn't have that belief system, or I didn't have that mentality or attitude. And then from that place of right before it, there must have been 1,000 other possibilities and options that I could have chosen, but for some reason I chose this one. So now let me explore some of the other ones.
Exactly.
Well, every day we're reborn. We're new. We're brand new. It's a new day. We're new. We have nobody that hurt us or did anything. It's, it's open, so it's having to know that you're in this moment at each creating it as you go, and then when you get into the beliefs and stuff, that's past stuff. That's stuff that, in the moment, yes, you can have those things come up, but it's more so to observe and keep going and learning, because a lot of people stay up in here and not really observe what's coming to them in the present moment.
Yeah. And because moment by moment too, we have to hold on to some level of belief, otherwise we wouldn't have a reality, right? So it's whether that belief is supporting or serving you and in alignment with what you want or not. And the releasing and the letting go and the being in the moment is a skill. Right? It's a skill
4 years.
you have to develop, and not everybody has been equipped with that skill set. It's not taught in the public school system for sure.
No.
Or they don't know that they can.
Yeah,
they just don't know.
Yeah.
And
it blew my mind.
That's the whole purpose behind what we're doing. What Gary and I have been doing for the last year is to let people know that you do have a choice. There are alternatives and such, and it doesn't. I mean. A lot of people think, well, I can't afford to, to hire a coach, or I can't afford to go into therapy, or I can't afford. It's like, we there's 57 episodes, 58 hours of training that we've done, that
not including rabbit holes, because we've done a chunk of those.
Not including the rabbit holes, exactly. So we're up in the 70s. But that all of this supersedes, all of those excuses. Okay. Well, that's just too hard. Oh, you want the pill, you want the quick fix and such. And we're, it's, and that's a symptom of the modern era now, that we're always looking for that quick fix. And some of this can be very quick. Gary and I have had many, many situations where someone's like, that's it? Yeah. It goes to, I like the analogy of that guy that goes to the dentist, because he had a really, really bad toothache, and his dentist friend says, well, come on in and we'll get that taken care of. And, he's in and out in like 15 minutes. And the dentist charges him like $500. He goes, $500 for 15 minutes? I'm not going to pay. He goes, well, then get back in the chair and I'll be more than happy to take my time and spend an hour drilling on your teeth. But the bill's going to be the same. And but we have this mentality that we're like, well, no, to make these kinds of changes, it's going to take, weeks or months or years of therapy. It's like, well, not necessarily, and such. It can be. So, get it done so you can move on to utilizing that new foundation.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I found in my own experience is that I had a belief that in order to grow and eliminate other beliefs, that I needed a brick, right? I needed a really hard lesson.
Mhm.
Well, I've had my fair share. I've had my fair share of those, and
Well,
that is no.
that's your
I was gonna
power,
say-
Mary. You manifested bricks. That's good.
Yeah, right. Woo!
Now
I
you need to
don't want
manifest some balloons.
Yeah, right. Some feather pillows or something. But anyway, bubble wrap. I don't know.
There you go.
What I look back on now, of course, all that stuff is historic, and I think that history is important because my beliefs have changed, and there was some part of me that wanted that belief to change. Now, we're talking warrior type stuff, where the whole table just shifted.
Yep.
But the deal was there was enough stuff going on in my life and I've had multiple occasions of where I'm getting life that is basically machine gun fire, duck and run. I've had multiple occasions of that. And each of those occasions removed huge chunks of non-serving belief. And I, quite frankly, did not have time to say, where did this crap come from?
Yeah.
Because it was like clothes that were on fire. They just had to be shed. They just had to go away. And so life supported then the change in that belief system. And then, of course, as we're there's gnashing of teeth and tears and confusion and whatever else is going on during that time when the table is basically upside down and the legs are pointed in the air. The new beliefs are established, and some of those new beliefs were not great either, but some of them were absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess what I say that for is to say that life will support you if you indeed want to change your beliefs, because life doesn't look at things as positive or negative. We do.
Exactly.
And if like you say, I don't want to carry these things because they're heavy, of these beliefs that don't serve me. They create anxiety, emotional disturbance, whatever, sadness, and that's not really a serving belief.
Yeah.
And you say your higher self, as Josephine had said, is always watching, and you say, gosh, I kind of want to get rid of this garbage. And life will go, are you serious? I'm happy to do that for you, but it's
careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah. And it's
And you might create dementia.
It's absolutely amazing that you will get subtle taps. You will get, but oftentimes we are not aware and we are not paying attention to that until eventually we get the shove that says, you were serious about that change, right? Because I'm here to support you in that. And it's been astonishing, the stuff that I've been actually fast forward to today's date. I've been able to just drop like a hot potato 2 seconds after I pick it up. Nope, don't want that, and it doesn't take the brick anymore because there's an awareness of what circumstances I'm drawing to myself and things that are happening, right? And that's actually been a really big belief, is that I think a lot of us look for someone else to save us, and it's not someone else that saves us, it's us that saves us.
Well,
Yeah,
welcome to the
absolutely.
choice convergence point, Mary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You are in the
Yeah.
eye of the
Why
storm.
is this why is this happening to, what's the lesson in it?
exactly. And when you are, I don't say this for folks to go, oh, but when you've been through the shit I've been through, you have to say, what's the lesson? Elsewise, I wasn't going to survive what was happening.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
you
you're a
can't,
warrior.
you can't you can't say, why is this happening? Well, that doesn't answer a single question. It just puts the cement boots on.
Yeah.
You know, it stops you from moving. It seizes you from taking those little tiny steps or crawling, whatever it takes,
Yeah.
right? And if there's a lesson in it, then there is some
There's a future.
light. Yeah,
That's
there's some light in it. It creates some sort of light. And whether that is that you come out of this and you can offer help to someone else, you can shine your light for somebody else. Look, I've been through this, and I can understand from my perspective. I can't understand necessarily directly what emotion you feel here, but I can have compassion for what you are feeling. You know, because I've been through blah, 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 blah. And you can hold someone's hand. Shoot, for a couple of
Sure.
steps, you can carry somebody
Yeah.
for just a quick minute. Ultimately, the journey is their own. But yeah, so life provides, life supports for the challenging of belief systems that are not healthy, for the challenging of belief systems that don't support the greater outcome, whatever that is.
That's
And
beautiful, Mary.
it's interesting to stand back and look at those things and be able to observe them now and get the whisper and not need the brick.
But you wouldn't have been able to do that. You wouldn't have been able to do that if you didn't have those brick experiences.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's important for everyone to really get that you are moment by moment creating, reinforcing, supporting, adjusting and tweaking your belief systems anyways. So why not choose ones that serve you and ones that bring more light and love into your life? You know, I mean, you're doing it anyway. It's not like we're teaching you got to do something new, right?
Mhm.
It's just that now it's bringing more, like you said, awareness into what it is you're creating as a belief system for the reality that you experience. And then coming, like we said, from the choice convergence point, the eye of the storm, from that place of knowing that there's that and this and that and this and that and this, and there's all these other possibilities now of the, of the buffet of choices that I have. Which one do I want to go and dive into? And you talked earlier about some of them when the tables flipped upside down, these new ones, some would be good, some would be not good. Well, how would you have known if you didn't test them out?
Right.
Exactly.
Well, sometimes you can see their vibration,
Yeah.
before you accept it. Sometimes
Yeah.
you don't even have to. Well, I suppose it is sort of a test from a distance. You can see
You
its
see that
vibration.
vibration because you can contrast it against something that you already know, that you've already learned. You see,
Right.
see?
Yes.
Well,
So
from the
somehow
student to
you
the
learn,
teacher.
you've already learned, you learned the lesson, 5 years ago, and now you're like, this is similar to that and such. This is, no, that just doesn't feel good. That brings you back to that lesson or whatever the case may be, but just like, yeah, that's just not for me.
Yeah, and
But what did you do to get out of that?
Yeah, and the reason you can drop it like a hot potato, Mary, when it doesn't serve you is because you are in tune with your core vibration. And as soon as you touch it or it comes into your awareness, that vibration doesn't match.
Right.
And right away. It's like, that's not playing the playlist that I like. So I'm done with it.
Get out of here.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dawn says, Dawn says, become a conscious creator instead of being a victim. 100%. The way you do that, Dawn, is to really always get back to what we talk about in stream after stream, getting back to the choice convergence point, your CCP, because that's where you have that potential of then being conscious in your creation of what you experience.
The coolest thing about that CCP is that you make the decision and then you let it go.
Yeah.
Then life does and provides all of the supporting players, as you have said, I don't know how many times in these live streams. And it provides all the supporting players. It applies to the degree that how do I say this consciously? To the degree that your life requires. Okay, so I don't require a 10,000-foot mansion in order to accomplish what it is. I'm a dog rescuer. Okay, so my
a lot of dogs in 10,000-foot mansion. That's a
right. You ask my husband the day he come home Christmas Eve, and there were 14 dogs in our house.
Snap.
He was like, "What on earth are you doing?" Well, anyway, they were seven of them were puppies, but the six of them lived with us. 6 of them lived with us permanently. But anyway, I'm down to 4, y'all. Anyhow,
for now.
But there's Christmas is coming up again, so
right. Yeah. When you drive by something and somebody's doing something, and you're like, somebody should do something. When it comes to dogs, I say to myself, I am somebody.
Yeah, nice.
So I will not drive by. Nice. Anyway, that's how we ended up with puppies. But what I'm saying is that life will provide. If you need to accomplish your greater goal of spreading your light and that sort of thing, life will provide that. I'm finding out that I just don't have to worry about it. I make the decision at the CCP, and sometimes I'm aware of the decision I've made at the CCP. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes it's more of just a vibrational decision sort of thing, right? Yeah, it's unconscious. But then the next thing you know, the belief systems are challenged. I'm observing that, this one doesn't work. This one doesn't vibrate the way that it used to, or I don't vibrate the way that used to. I guess that's probably more correct.
Yep.
And then stuff just sort of starts just falling into place. And it's almost miraculous to stand back and watch, because we're not taught. Like you said, it's not taught it's not taught in homes because parents don't know. It's not taught in schools because teachers don't know. It's not taught that this is actually who we really are. Mm-hmm. We consider it to be miraculous, but it's just is what it is. It's the power that we possess. Yeah. And it's amazing to watch our world wake up.
Yeah.
So Dawn's asking a question, what is CCP? So CCP stands for the choice convergence point. The best analogy that we use is the choice convergence point is the eye of the storm, where it's calm and you are not run into you are not basically driven by making emotional decisions about your life. So you can watch the storm happening around you. You can constantly, but you're in the eye where you're calm and say, I'm not going to participate in that storm. I'm going to make my choices from here. And that's exactly what Mary has adapted incredibly well, and it's working for her. And ultimately
came from an experience that I had on a shamanic journey where, and it's really challenging to describe it because there's so many components to it, and as I do, the words just cannot. And really, a lot of these streams are really just Ross and I trying to unpack that. So I had this experience where I totally got the experience of being in the exact moment when all of my possible life choices existed, and I hadn't yet chosen one. where, where if I was in the center of this screen in every direction possible, I was able to be aware that every particular one of them in an infant, it was like, it really was mind blowing. Where it was just, every minor shift that I could make in a choice or an option, an energetic choice, a thought choice, a movement, every single bit of it contributed to the reality that I was moving into. And so the cool thing was that, and then when there was a choice that was made, the very next moment, there is another choice that could be made. It was like to either continue that stream or shift it to somewhere else. So you always have this capacity to understand that every single moment we are recreating, we are establishing, we're confirming, we're tweaking and tuning our choices from this choice convergence point. We're just giving you tools to become more conscious of it.
Right. And so Dawn asked about, so that's very interesting, would like to learn more about CCP. So I just, I sent her the link for all of our replays, which is a new link that we've established, which is hackingtheinfinitymatrix.com/replays. And that'll take you directly to all of our replays. And Dawn, for your edification, you definitely want to start with the beginning. That's where we introduce season 1 in the playlist, where we introduce the techniques, and then I believe that's where the CCP is first
or second episode. I'm pretty sure we started talking about
it.
For sure. And we are actually revisiting what is the Infinity Matrix as a topic coming up in December. So look for that. Yeah. Right. Because that'll also bring back to some of this, what we're talking about, and give some more deeper insight into it. Our first stream when we did it a year and change ago, we were like, hey, maybe people are interested in this thing, so let's start talking about it.
Well, we did that interview too, and
yes.
The person that interviewed us, Vicky Helm, was just absolutely stunned. She was fascinated. We're like, Yeah. She goes, are you guys doing anything with this? We're like, well, we're in the process. And she's like, you've got to get this out now. So it was awesome. Yeah, so what Gary is saying is, as we have progressed, we have learned as well. We've learned new things, and we've been able to better define the entire process and the entire realm of that we're living in. And because and part of what helps us do that is everyone's participation and your questions. They help us immensely. It's like, oh, people aren't getting it. So let's redefine this. Let's not redefine it. Let's better define it. And because the premise is all still the same, but we're just really, really trying to get this messaging out so that people understand that there's a better way to think, a different way to think. And we don't tell you what to think. We tell you that there's a better way to think. And that you are creators yourself. You have the ability. It's just been forgotten.
Oh, you all challenge belief systems, I'll tell you that, because when I first started watching y'all last October, some of the messages were like, boy, this is way over my head. But then, I would watch and do replays. Some of them I've watched, 6, 7, 8 times. And there's something in the subconscious, there's something greater than my physical being that goes, oh yeah, okay, I get this. This is uncovering something. Yeah. And eventually the nuggets that are planted in there, I may not be able to identify exactly which nugget it is, but eventually
we're playing one string that hits a vibration that catches
right.
It. Yeah.
And exactly.
Just for edification, we don't challenge the belief systems.
Well, okay. I'll give you that. It creates a challenge within me.
If we challenge belief systems, we'd still be back on episode 1, because there's 8.9 billion belief systems out there.
Correct. I'll give you that. But it did create I did create the challenge within myself to examine what it was, who it is that I think that I am. And I'm greater than I could ever think I am, Gary.
Absolutely. No matter how great you think you are.
And no matter how great I think I
Absolutely.
am. And that's still true even today. You know, there's still an evolution of that concept. But some of the concepts were beyond my understanding at the point, but I still hung with them. And I say this because I know this is going to be replayable for folks.
Yeah.
I say that because, you know, some things made me go, and some things went, oh, jeez. But because I didn't get it, you know, but still, you know, here I am, and it's been great. And now a year out, there have been a lot of I's dotted, T's crossed, and a lot of light that shines now that didn't shine when I started. And it just keeps getting better. And I am so freaking excited.
Awesome.
You know,
That's
the analogy we like to use, Mary, is that it's like, you know, when you're going through, not that I care for the school system and their patterns of teaching, but you can use it as an example where, you know, when you're going through the school, or even if you're homeschooled, you know, when you're learning about the number one, right? It's all your focus is on number one, but number 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the others exist. You don't understand the concept of them, but you focus on one until you get that down, get comfortable with it, and then you're in a place where you can then accept and absorb the possibility of 2. And then, okay, now I got the 0 through 9. Okay, now what if we put them together and it's okay, 1 and a 0? Oh my gosh, that's 10. It's mind blowing. That's a whole other concept.
Right. Right.
exactly.
Absolutely. I still don't get the trillion billion thing though. You know, it's okay. I haven't evolved that far yet.
All right. Thanks, Dawn, she said she's got another meeting. Yeah, we're just about done here too. So every Saturday we're here. You're welcome to join us, and every Thursday we're on one of our platforms that we're streaming. You're welcome to come and join those too, because somehow you said this is your first live stream. Is this the first rabbit hole or first live stream of seeing Ross and I? Because that'd be interesting to have this as a first experience.
Oh, we forgot to push for record.
First of everything.
Wow. Well, thanks for showing up. Thursdays, we have a live stream that we do every Thursday. I'm doing it for just over a year now, and we've got all kinds of topics. And if you check the replay link that Ross sent you, you can see them, but you can also catch the lives every Thursday at, we're currently at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And, you know, we stream it here to YouTube. We stream it on the Facebook pages as well. And you're welcome to join in there as well. So,
yeah. And that's pretty much the end of our hour, everyone. Any last questions anyone has?
Thank you.
MC, Paula?
Any other rabbit holes?
Yeah,
Paula,
I'd like to know.
MC, thanks guys for showing up.
I'm excited to perhaps unpack things that people call gifts, but are actually my hidden talents that I'm unaware of. I'm kind of excited about that. I'm looking forward to that. Nice. I know you're all going to do it, so.
Yeah, we've got some good stuff for you, girl. You stick around.
You do. You're going to love the Master Labs. The Master Labs are where that happens.
Cool. I thank you all so much for your time and the effort that you've put into these, because they absolutely mean an enormous amount to me. Again, you've been a light into my path. I appreciate that greatly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Josephine, and we'll see you again next week.
Hey, everyone.
Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
Everyone.
Bye.